Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We are going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Vaughn. Song request, Leviathan, The Whole of Deceit. Now, this one's interesting in that I couldn't find it anywhere. That link that was given to me is just from a random YouTube channel. It's not on their Bandcamp page. It's not on Apple Music. It is on Spotify, and that seems to be the only place I can find a version of it. I'm hoping that the quality here is not too bad since I don't have access to Spotify. But regardless, I don't have another option. So let's dive into it, see what's going on with Leviathan's The Whole of Deceit. The quality here is pretty bad, but given the style, this is how it's supposed to sound. I also know that this album is a compilation of demos and older tracks, if I remember right. So anyways, it's just possible that maybe this stuff didn't have as much polish on it as some other works from them. I'm having a real tough time connecting with this song on every level, I think. Especially given just how static it is. Even the music here, we have one note that the guitars are giving us. Now this is more interesting. I did hear the bass though. The guitar definitely covers it up most of the time, but it was really nice to kind of remove all the guitar for a moment. Let me hear that bass tone. We've had Leviathan on a channel before, right?
I would have given you anything.
Some neat symbol ideas here. After like 7 minutes now, 6 minutes, we finally have an atmosphere that I'm intrigued by, more so as an indication of where we're going to take this. At least it's a quicker fade out. We just got done listening to Death Heaven, and they faded out for like 30 seconds. Pretty lengthy one, but they also had a double fade out, and this one's just over. So I'll give them props for that. They just wrapped the song up and got it over with. So this actually brings up an interesting question, and it's something that we got into in the comment section of one of Zappa's reactions, but I don't think I've ever talked about on the channel proper, in front of the camera. And that's that not all music needs to be out there. Any artist is going to have a bunch of incomplete works. It doesn't matter if you're a composer or you draw, you work with sculpture, you make film, any of that. There's going to be a ton of incomplete works you have. Stuff that you'd want to finish, maybe you never got around to, maybe you lost the passion for it, you ran out of ideas, hit a mental block, moved on, whatever. I'm no different. I have a folder of like 70 songs in various completion states. Some of them are just riffs, some of them are just sections, some of them have a bit more to them than that, but some of them are complete songs just with no production, no engineering work done on them. That's just the state of things. I don't think that there's a point where I would say, no, that stuff shouldn't be released. I think that's dumb. But I do think that there is a difference between, how should we even word this? We need to put a divide between works that are finished in totality, up to a point, because there's always things to work on. If you've ever worked on any project, there's always little, millimeters left of work to do, little pieces of perfection. You'll never hit that 100% mark. You eventually just need to ship something at like 99% perfect. Or more realistically, in most cases, it feels like 75% perfect. Um, there's a distinction between that you get up to the point where you're like, I can't work on this anymore. I can't spend more time perfecting this. It needs to go. And then something like this, which definitely has more of a demo feel to it. It's a little half baked. It's a complete song for sure, and it works from start to finish, but it's missing that extra bit of something that would really make it feel complete. In fact, there's several sections in here that feel like they need at least another layer of something. There's just nothing going on, and the section either needs to be cut or something needs to be put in there to help move forward to the next part. It feels like an incomplete work in some ways, and that's what this compilation album is, from my understanding. It is songs that are not ready for a full album release, but probably will never go past this point, and Leviathan released it out for the massive fans, for the collectors, for those who want everything from Leviathan. And so, I mean, it has a specific purpose there, then, that it is driven completely not to get new fans. It's not to bring in, attention towards Leviathan. It really is a release for the fans. And so it's difficult for me to criticize this because it doesn't have that commercial element to it. And that's not to say that it's, commercial typically means widespread appeal, right? But it's not designed, I think, to be an avenue of revenue. In fact, I don't even know if this album is being sold. It could be distributed entirely free. I don't know that much about it. But to me, like I said, it's not something that uh, appears to have that commercial element. You're not trying to bring in new listeners on it. You're not trying to sell your brand on it. It is literally for the fans. This is a bunch of work I did. If you're an Ultra fan, you want to hear everything I've worked on, get this album. And so it feels incomplete. And through that, it feels wrong of me almost to criticize it. It is like criticizing an incomplete work. If we have a workshopping channel on the Discord, you're halfway through a track, or maybe you have an idea and you don't know where to take it, or you think you finished up a first draft. Here, I want some ideas on it. Help me, refine it, that kind of thing. And, it's a very different mindset when I listen to stuff in that area and I give my criticism on it than when I listen to something on the channel here and give my criticism, because one is a final work and one is a rough draft, and you have to have a very different mindset. You're definitely looking for flaws in areas to improve, and you're looking for the good parts to, speak highly about, but there's definitely more of a leniency that I have because the purpose is for growth feedback rather than educational feedback. I can be harder on these finalized songs because they're done. Whereas in workshopping, you're looking for constructive feedback. And so I'm usually less harsh on it, usually only giving comments about what could be improved in a sense that, there's an area that it's weak, not necessarily in being a critic about it. And that's what this feels like. Like, there's a lot of areas in this track I can be like, this was bad, this needed something more, this fell flat, the production here was odd. In fact, there isn't really a single section here that I think works for me. but it also doesn't feel like a release that's ready for public consumption anyways. It feels like something left on a hard drive for 10 years, and the dude behind Leviathan said, I'm never working on this again. Ultra fans, here's something for you. You want to see, it's not complete, but maybe you might enjoy it. And so, that puts me in a tough spot. Do I dig into this or don't I? I mean, this is a special selection. Someone donated to the channel for an analysis. Let's give one. The production here, I don't want to touch on too much because it is a 12-year-old video on a channel that might not, well, the channel definitely didn't have the original uncompressed source to make the upload from. So there was probably some compression into the audio file before it hit YouTube, and then it got compressed through YouTube, but it also feels like something that is wholly lo-fi anyways. The production just rarely works for me, though. It sounds like it should be a massive thing. It feels like it should have weight given what the music is implying, but the sounds of the instruments never go that way, and so it feels like it is flat. It lacks the impact that the song is implying. Maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not, maybe it's because it never got mixed, right? Maybe this is purely, first draft. I recorded some stuff, put it in a DAW, never actually mixed it. I don't know at this point where any of the decisions lie that led to me hearing this specific audio of it. But the production just never works for me. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because like I said, it could be entirely unintentional. Maybe it has better production in the original on Spotify, Musically, it doesn't go anywhere, ever. It sits in a lot of places. What was that, our second or third section was just one notes on both of our guitars. The drums are going crazy. We have typical black metal style drums throughout this entire track. 16th notes on the bass kick, 16th note blast beats on the snare. Sometimes we get some interesting cymbal work. Usually the cymbals are just as rigid as the rest of the drums. And then we have the vocals on top of that, which are unintelligible but spoken word, which is an interesting combination. It's easily the most intriguing part of the song. But yeah, like, the drums don't shift. Beat one of this bar is the same as the next beat, as the next beat, as the next bar, as the next bar, as the next phrase. The guitars are the same. It is static to the most ultimate level. The only difference I think that could make it more static is if the guitars hold the note instead of 16th note pick it, because at least there is the attacks that change up things a little bit. You get the difference between the attack and the release. But it is just stacked. And then from here, the guitars leave and we have the drums and the bass. And I enjoyed hearing the bass, but it was a 2-beat phrase, I think. And then the guitars came in on top of it and played the same phrase, and we were in this section for another minute or so. The drums didn't do anything interesting here other than the cymbal work, which I liked. A little bit of light dancing on that. But this is pretty much the flow of the song. Each section has a half to 1 bar phrase, and we repeat it for minutes at a time with varying levels of interestingality. The phrases are varying levels of interesting. Some of them, like that one we were just talking about, is just one note for like a full minute. I don't find anything interesting about that. It feels more like a placeholder, something you would come back to later and put a musical idea under or over, or replace it with a chord progression or something. Even towards the end of the track, we finally hit something that I felt was interesting. We get this wild atmospheric thing that kind of calls back to some of the atmospheric stuff we heard at the very beginning of the track. And I was like, okay, this is interesting because I don't know where it's going. We're building tension, we're pointing towards somewhere, but we haven't gone. So where do we go? And the next section just kind of falls flat on that. The production upsets it a little bit. The chord progression doesn't change, and those weird atmospheric sounds sort of just flatten out. They were a bit more dynamic when we first heard them, and they lost that dynamic range. And they sort of just are now, and they're kind of getting drowned out by the guitar work. And then we fade out from there. It's just a series of sections that needed more time in the oven. I don't think this is a bad foundation at all. I want to clear that up, or at least make it clear. There is a good song here as far as black metal goes. It's not my favorite genre, and I mean, y'all know any suggestions I would have would typically pull it outside of black metal into either avant-garde black metal or in different genres entirely. So I'm not going to sit up here and say what I would do with this because I don't make black metal music. And I'm not a big listener of it. But you could make a really solid black metal track out of this that would, it could go up there with some of the greats. And we've listened to Leviathan in the past. I'm pretty sure. That's a name that feels familiar to me. Leviathan. Yeah, we listened to Dawn Vibrations. Not that long ago, actually. Some of the wildest black metal is what I typed for my little text at the top of the thumbnail. That couldn't be farther from my experience with this one, which is just entirely tame and static. So, I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt. This could have been early in Leviathan's career. Maybe they weren't as familiar with what they wanted to do out of black metal. Maybe they were being a bit more iterative. A lot of bands start out wearing their influences on their shoulder and making more simple music before getting comfortable with what they want to be and, going in their own directions. And maybe that's what happened here. Maybe this is how he makes his wild music. He starts with a foundation like this and then builds the wildness on top of it, and we just never got that second phase. So, I'm just going to go back to what I said. I don't think it's fair to criticize this track. It's incomplete in a lot of ways. And it's to me, it's a foundation, a demo, a first draft, something to be expanded upon later that for whatever reason, Leviathan figured wasn't going to happen and released it in the state it is, with the caveat that it's, a demo. It's an incomplete work. And that's going to be my take on that. It's like I said, it's interesting. I don't think we've ever got anything like this on the channel before, where not only did I feel it was incomplete, which I don't think that's a comment I make too often, but is expressly labeled as incomplete works or demos or old tracks. Like I said, I don't know where this sits, but it's definitely something that he didn't feel comfortable releasing on a real album, an LP, and instead is on a compilation of old works thing. So there's no lyrics for this anywhere on the internet. There's only one place I found with lyrics for this album, and they only have lyrics on a few tracks. I'm going to guess that Leviathan didn't release lyrics for this. Maybe there's no liner notes with the lyrics, or maybe it doesn't even have a CD release. Maybe it's digital only. Again, I don't have the information for that. But of the few tracks that have lyrics to them on that one site, of course, the Whole of Deceit isn't one of the songs with lyrics for it. So I have no idea what's being said here. It's unintelligible during the song. Yeah, this is a bit of a downer, but I kind of turned it to talk about a tangential topic too, because I really don't have much positive to say about the song, which makes sense for the last time. I don't think it is a fully realized track, and I think Leviathan agrees with that. Those are my thoughts on Leviathan's The Whole of Deceit. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this. If you enjoyed it, anything that stood out to you, your own comments, opinions, perspectives on it. Above the comments, in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree. It'll take you to this menu. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. Tomorrow we'll be back. We're going to check out the next Deaf Heaven track, the one that is wildly different than what we checked out today. I mean, that's what the theme for the week is all about, looking at a typical sound and then an atypical sound. And we'll do a special selection tomorrow too as well. Remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.